Niggas on beats, boy.
Subscribe to Kiwi Box. That's the one. Yeah. Good luck.
Kia ora team. So, this weekend there are 4 heavyweight fights that could be worth a look, 2 that could be reasonably competitive, 2 that should be relative straightforward wins, I think. The first one, and probably the most competitive, or easily the most competitive, is Derek Chisora versus Dillian Whyte. Their second fight. The first one, Dillian Whyte won by split decision. It was a very close fight, high volume fight. Many people thought it was fight of the year. Many people thought Derek Chisora actually won that fight. Personally, I thought it was around about a draw, to be honest. This time around, I think it's going to be slightly different. Both guys are coming off big wins. Derek Chisora knocked out Carlos Takam after losing most of the fight, but Takam did slow down, started gassing out, and Derek Chisora caught him with a huge right hand and sparked him. So Derek's full of confidence at the moment, which is a good thing. We know Derek Chisora has quite often come into the ring lacking motivation. Some days he's the best Derek Chisora, some days he hasn't been that great. So by all accounts, he's looking like he's in good shape and he's full of confidence in this fight, so we should see the best Derek Chisora we can get. Fingers crossed we do. Dillian Whyte is coming off a very exciting win over Joseph Parker. He knocked Joe down a couple of times and then got knocked down at the very end of the fight and almost lost. If there was another 30 seconds, I think Parker may have got him out of there. But a win's a win, right? So he's on a high. Hopefully he's in the best of shape, not carrying any injuries into the fight. We never hear about any injuries until after fights, so fingers crossed we've got the best Dillian Whyte coming into the ring as well. But yeah, this time around I think it's going to be a bit more one-sided. I think Dillian Whyte has improved with his skills. I mean, his footwork, he's still all over the place. Quite often looks off balance, but he has improved. His jab's gotten better. He seems to be able to get in pretty good condition this time around. Hopefully he'll be a bit lighter than his last fight, and apparently he had an injury against Parker, and that's something to do with why he was so heavy. But this fight, yeah, I think he's going to outpoint Derek. I think it's going to be fairly one-sided, at least for the first half of the fight. Maybe once they get a bit more tired, Derek can put a bit more pressure on. But I think Dillian Whyte's going to have it in the bag, and I think he's going to stop Derek in the later rounds, maybe around 9, somewhere there. If it goes the distance, I'm sure we're going to see some controversy again. But yeah, like I say, I think Derek is coming to the end of his career. This is kind of his last shot. He'll be full of motivation, but I just don't think he's got enough to get to Dillian. If he could catch Dillian with one of those huge looping overhand rights, it's possible he could stop him, but I think Dillian's pretty wise to it, and there ain't much else that Derek's going to be able to do. You know, they get in close and have a lot of inside fighting. I think Dillian's going to try and box a bit more than he did in the last fight, but we'll see what happens once they get a bit more tired. Very interesting fight, and like I say, it's going to be the most competitive fight for the weekend, I think. Now the other one that I think is actually a little bit competitive, and you may even laugh at me for saying this, but Tom Little is fighting David Price. I don't think this fight's going to go the distance, however you want to look at it. We know David Price hits like a fucking mule. He's a giant and he hits hard, but he's slow as shit, and he's got the chin of a little girl. So I think Tom Little's best chance in this fight is to try and last the the first 3 or 4 rounds, not get tagged too much, but try and get in close to David Price to cut down the range. And don't let David Price lean all over him too much. Obviously there's going to be a huge size difference, but David Price is well known for gassing out pretty quickly, so if he can put a bit of pressure on Price and make him throw as many punches as he can, gas him out, he could, after round 3 or 4, maybe land a good shot. And it doesn't take much once you hit David Price on the chin to drop the big tree. So Tom Little, I think, could stop David Price, but if not by a knockout, it's possible the ref could stop it, because David Price just can't even hold his hands up anymore. He gasses out that badly. But you know, there is a high possibility that Tom Little's going to get sparked in the early rounds with one of those big shots from David Price. I mean, he nearly knocked out Povetkin with a left hook. So, you know, Povetkin's got a damn good chin. It only takes one shot from a huge man like that, and it could be all over. But yeah, like I say, this fight ain't going the distance. I'm still going to pick David Price for the early KO, but I think Tom Little has a lot more chance than everybody seems to think. We will see. Now, they're both on that same card. The next fight is also in the UK on a different card, on the Frampton Warrington card, which will be on BT Sport, is Nathan Gorman versus Razvan Kajaani. Kind of a last minute fight, this one. Nathan Gorman has been scheduled to fight Alex Leopai for quite some time. Alex Leopai talked up a storm, said a whole lot of shit, and then pulled out at the last minute. So Nathan Gorman was kind of left with nothing, but fortunately Daniel Dubois, who was supposed to fight Razvan Kajaani last week, had to pull out because he was sick. So Raz was left with no opponent. But hello, Frank Warren has a card and an opening, so I think Gorman versus Kajaani is actually a bit more credible than Leopai versus Gorman, because nobody rates Alex Leopai anymore. He had his chance a few years ago against Klitschko, and he proved at a decent level he's a boxing bag with a big chin. You know, he's not going to throw many punches, he's going to try and counter, and he's not a tall heavyweight or anything. So, you know, I don't think Alex Leopai is credible. He's getting on in age too. I think he's like 38 or 39 years old, so Leopai's done. Kajaani, you know, he's fought for a world title against Joseph Parker, where he was a sparring partner, pretty much. He was actually a sparring partner. They sparred over 100 rounds, preparing for Huey Fury, who pulled out at the last minute, and Kajaani boxed in his shell. I mean, he threw like 10 punches in the 11th round for that whole fight. But he recently fought Luis Ortiz, took a few more chances, thought he might try and win the fight, but got sparked in the second round. So we'll see. I think what Kajaani needs to do is come to the fight with ambitions to win. If he comes to defend and survive, he's just going to be an easy opponent for everybody. To a degree, I think that's the way Gorman's management has seen this fight, but I do think it's a better fight than Alex Leopai. Now, Nathan Gorman, to me, he's very skilled. He's lived boxing all his life. You know, he's Tyson Fury's cousin. His father used to be the his grandfather used to be the Gypsy King. Can't remember his name. Someone Bartley Gorman, his name was. So he's lived boxing growing up. He's got lots of skills, got good footwork, he's got half decent power, and I think he's going to be able to stop Kajaani in the later rounds. Possibly get a unanimous decision win over him. I don't see Kajaani having too much chance unless he can pull something out of the bag and land something on the button out of the blue against the run. So it is what it is. I'm picking Nathan Gorman for stoppage in round 8, but don't be surprised if it goes the distance and he gets the decision as well. So later on in the day, there is an American card where the Charlo brothers are fighting guys that shouldn't even be in the ring with them. But also on that card we have Dominic Brazil, the WBC mandatory, will be fighting Carlos Negron. Now Carlos Negron, I think he's 17-1 off the top of my head. He lost like his second professional fight to Frederico Mendoza or something like that. Can't say I know the dude, but looking through his record, he doesn't really have anybody of note on there. The name that stands out the most is Derek Rossi, who he managed to stop by a TKO. So, you know, how credible is the guy? I don't think he's that credible. However, he is 6'6", so he's going to be of similar size to Dominic Brazil. But being real, this is a tick over fight for Brazil while he sits on his mandatory position for the WBC. I think this fight is probably going to go 6 to 7 rounds before Dominic Brazil's pressure gets to Negron. He just keeps coming, like as we saw against Izu Ugano. Dominic Brazil has a very good chin and a very big heart. Even if you knock him down, he's still going to get up and do his best to keep coming. So that's going to be the telling factor, I think, in that fight. But you know, it is what it is. While he's sitting on that mandatory position, he's not going to take anything too risky, and that's one of the reasons why we haven't seen him in the ring for quite some time. So good to see him in action again at the very least. So yeah, those are my thoughts for the fights for the weekend. If you haven't got a broadcast, you can probably catch the fight on VIP Box. If you go check that site out, you got to click on a few things, get rid of a few pop-ups, but once you're into the fight, it's all good, you're in. You should get all of those on there because they usually have the Sky broadcasts, Sky UK, they have BT Sport broadcasts, and they have Showtime broadcasts all on there. So yeah, enjoy the weekend's boxing. Let us know what you think of the fights, who's going to win, and so on and so forth. We can get some discussion going. And yeah, hope you've enjoyed the bit of a roundup. Don't forget to give me the thumbs up if you have. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget the links down the bottom. And I will catch you in the next one. Big Boys Boxing, we out.
Zone beats, boy.